on their land with sovereignty that has never been ceded. I think it's very important, especially with spoken word, oral narratives, or storytelling, poetry, that we acknowledge that oral storytelling has been around on this land for over 60,000 years. And it tells the story of the waterways and the sky and the people and the lands that we have traversed. And that's incredibly important. And as a Kurdish person who was displaced from Iraq as part of an indigenous community that has also experienced cultural genocide, I have to really affirm the importance of oral storytelling in knowing my place and acknowledging my personhood on different lands, and also being a beneficiary of settler colonialism. So tonight, we are talking about activism and creativity and artistry, which is incredibly important. I think sometimes we think of these two worlds as very separate, but actually they live in a symbiotic relationship. And it's incredibly important. So during my day job is working as a racial justice and economic justice campaigner. And it's very interesting to have been born into activism. So the resistance is always present. Community around me is incredibly important. Sometimes we're disparate and disconnected, so we need to build new things around ourselves and build sustainability and always know our place and our identity and affirm that. And art brings that into the fore. Sometimes when we're, combating the kind of structures that are around us that inhibit us and create barriers around us, art gives us an opportunity to self-actualize and articulate something that's beyond our constraints, that steps out of, pain, or brings language to that pain. It creates new worlds, it creates new experiences, and it affirms our connection to the people around us. So, and also it responds to our realities as well. And so instead of responding to our realities or fighting against something, tonight our artists and activists, people that are kind of stepping and living in different multiple cities, are going to be responding to artworks. And so they're bringing their words, they're bringing their ideas, they're bringing their person, and responding to a piece of video and art, and kind of creating this really interpersonal, coalescing relationship that you'll be able to see in this very, very moment, especially in this world where we're constantly digitizing and collecting and archiving things. Sometimes like pausing and just experiencing something is very important. So we have several artists, poets and writers that I'll be introducing to you tonight. Our first guest is Jess Kapuscinski-Evans, who is a writer and performer, as well as singing with the Crip folk trio, the Bear Brass Asylum Orchestra. She recently formed the Waiting Room Arts Company and enjoys playing with existing texts and pop culture. Jess will be performing a piece to Zoe Bastin who is an artist and curator living in Nam. Bastin works in between sculpture and dance, creating choreography, objects, videos, photos, and performances, exploring the materiality of bodies and objects. Her practice reimagines her body and its connection to spatial, material, and societal contexts. Sculpture approximates the body through material, while dance recreates experiences using the body itself. I'd like to introduce Jess to the stage.
Hi everyone, say hi to Sue, my hired hands for this evening. If my lips turn blue, call an ambulance. But otherwise, if I'm coughing or whatnot, just assume that you will carry on, and I will carry on. Right. Roxanne Gay's thing is to be a bad feminist. So I've decided I'm a bad activist. I have only 10 degrees where where I can be outside and not be some kind of unwell. So protests are out. I congratulate myself if I stay awake during meetings. I think that the right of people to die has some value, and yet I worry about my beloved tribe of the disabled. Who is in my tribe and who is not, and who should we protect from coercion into suicide? I believe in a woman's right to abort a pregnancy, and yet what would it mean if suddenly you could pre-screen for all kinds of medical conditions? That future frightens me, just as it frightens me that you could choose the gender, the eye color, the hair color of your child. I'm a bad activist because I nod to disability activists who have gone before me, even though their views are slightly dated. I'm a bad activist because I am a feminist, and yet I love women so much I make them uncomfortable. I've not read the foundational feminist or queer or disability texts. I know a little about legislation, but that's as good as it gets. I'm yet to figure out how to do public transport, given my disability, and so I drive a car or I catch a taxi and I contribute to global warming. So all any of us can do is be the best citizens possible, whatever that might look like. And then one more. All right. Dear friend, it is not an achievement, despite what people may tell you, that you are less disabled than you otherwise might have been. It undermines the years of things that my tribe has been fighting for to say so. It is not an achievement that instead of being out in the world, making it a better place, you were working hard to take 5 steps forward and 5 steps back. If you knew what every day of my life was, you would know that the worst part about my disability is other people. And those people will be there, whether I'm disabled or not. If they don't make my life a misery, it will be the elderly or the dying. And, like the coward I am, I sometimes bow to them, despite everything in me telling me not to rise, not above it, but to scratch their eyes out, metaphorically speaking. It is not an achievement of the doctor that they make you walk again. A physician's job should be to minimize literal pain. Nothing more, nothing less. Okay, maybe psychiatry is good, but that will be my only concession. It's not an achievement that your partner stays with you. It's not an achievement that people are, out of the goodness of their hearts, working as support workers. Well, I suppose it is. It is an achievement of my tribe that it is considered a somewhat worthwhile profession. I learnt the hard way that cures and treatments are not worth the advertising. Please, dear friend, celebrate your true achievements, the love you have around you, and the exciting possibilities that you have now with this unique body and brain. It is an achievement, as the great man once said, to live long and prosper. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our next artist. Giuliani is a widely published poet and writer interested in sensitive exploration of the deeply personal and political through the shared intimacy of storytelling. Jazz performs regularly in Melbourne and recently curated a spoken word event called Muse and Makers, which debuted in December 2018. She will be performing a piece first with Sophie Penketham, who is a Sydney-based artist and arts administrator. Her video and new media works explore the telling of histories through objects, museum culture, and their intersection with the digital age. Sophie is interested in how ideas and experiences translate digitally, how humanness could be described, and how could it be uploaded to the cloud. Sophie's works have been included in group exhibitions across Australia, Hong Kong, USA, Europe, and UK. So without further ado, Jess.
It's very short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm just waiting for my video because it was very inspiring. He holds his chin as he considers me again. It's your eyes. It is decided by somebody who knows my face better than I do. Or at least he thinks so. Ah, yes. My eyes, the iris, two grey-blue reeds hanging on the doors to my soul. A simple genetic decoration match made your face suddenly whole. A rogue recessive gene smuggled to me through timelines and centuries. Colonials placed two pins on the map of my father's face as they struggled with ascension, pulling her into place in the harbour. Ah, your daughter's so beautiful with light skin, it is exclaimed by aunties who were taught to internalize and despise the melanin within. My eyes. It would be ignorant to complain of my culture diluted because, let's face it, grey blue eyes can flutter and who will refuse them? My eyes. On grey blue oceans, homes snatched up like a pearl, paradise built by cuffed hands. Also, one day my father could leave freely and come to another stolen land, make a perfectly diluted daughter with grey blue eyes, palatable for the male gaze in another stolen paradise. I wrote you a love letter. I wrote it with my thumbs. I sent it by a messenger because paper is so hard to come by. Would Keats write to Fanny with his thumbs? Would his insecurities be doubled with each ellipses? Start, stop, start, message not sent? I once was a daydreamer. Now I'm an all-night dreamer, blue glaze on my face, screen rolling, endless scrolling, a vortex of images, snippets of information injected straight into my veins. My memory is shorter. It shrinks every day. My life is becoming automated. Google is a verb, and we send an emoji to pray. Change isn't all evil, and yesterday there were problems too. I'm not waxing lyrical about the kids and their computers. I just want to know what it is that we lose while we're looking down. Writing love letters with our thumbs. Eating the blue glaze on our face, finding spaces to project light and shadow of our aspirations. Finding the best angles to take a natural, candid photo. There are more chances to be heard, but I'm having trouble getting through. Our ears are shrinking. Is our capacity for love, for empathy smaller too? There is so much injustice that we work ourselves into a frenzy, fingers on keyboards, our war cry. But our memory is short. And I can't remember what I cared about yesterday. I wrote you a love letter. I wrote it with my thumbs. I sent it by a messenger, and all I got back were 3 dots, and then they disappeared too. Voices echo, echo, echo in the cloud. Questions, questions, questions asked in the cloud. Do androids dream of electric sheep? Do humans get stored in the cloud when they die? Where do lost socks go when they go missing? Does shaming people online count as a hobby? If I post about Notre Dame, does that make me a good person? What's the EU? What's global warming? What's Adani? Will they take my jobs? What's a fair go? Is the world ending? Voices echo, echo, echo in the cloud. Questions, questions, questions. Let's ask them out loud. Let's ask about what we do not know, but let's do it sooner, not after the results are in. Let's ask questions, but spare the tired and the marginalized. Let's ask questions and also learn on our own. Better than a cloud, better than a book, is talking out loud, not just the echo, echo, echo chamber, but listening to people and connecting with people that live outside of our safe seat, people who might disagree. Let's hear it in their words. Progress won't be found just in pixels or news feeds, algorithms designed to reflect a false reality. It exists in stories. It exists in suffering. It can be uncomfortable and challenging to connect, to let go of labels and binaries and categories and judgments. But we don't have time to over-politicize, to demonize. Without connection, there is only one futile question, question, question. When our world dies, will we live on in the cloud? I asked Siri the meaning of life. I asked Siri to download an app for happiness. I asked Siri how she is today. She said, busy and tired, just like everybody else that I know. Thank you so much, Jess. So before we go to the next artist, could I please ask everyone that is in the middle of this pathway to just clear out, because Jess needs to have just a clear pathway to move through, and unfortunately we'll have to say goodbye to her. But thank you so much for your beautiful art, and just like keep that pathway clear, just so we have a bit of freedom in and out. Thank you so much. Before I go to our next artist, I think it's really, really important to acknowledge the role that art without the desire to be consumed or presented or performed is, that creating safe and secure spaces to share outside of the voyeurism that we're so used to, outside of the digitization that we're so used to. It's so incredibly important. And having a moment to yourself, and actually sometimes creating for yourself without that end consumption, or even resting for yourself, can be a really engaging and important process to our activism as well, that we're not constantly resisting, but we're creating new spaces for ourselves. So I'd like to introduce our next artist. His name is Ishak Sonlay. Ishak is a young Indonesian writer currently completing a master's degree in development studies in the University of Melbourne. Born in Kupikun, his main interest is rural development and the advocacy of the local community in eastern Indonesia. Ishak explores these themes through the medium of short story, poetry, and performance. Ishak will be performing a piece alongside Camila Galaz's work. Camila lives and works in Melbourne, where she completed honours in fine art in 2012. Her painting and video-based practice explores the role of performance and memory in the construction of identity. She also works collaboratively with the art collective TBP. I'd like to introduce Ishak. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roj. So I will bring into you the story of migrant workers from eastern part of Indonesia. And this story is about Dolphina Abu, who died in somewhere, just for work abroad, and was come back home in a cafe. So this is a requiem for Dolphina Abu as a response to Camila's video. Hope you enjoy it. I will read it in Indonesian language. Hope you feel it. Don't understand, but hope you feel it. Let's go. Pulang dengan luka yang menganga. A requiem for Dolphina Abu. Tengah malam nanti, kau akan lihat seorang perempuan menangis dalam kamar. Seorang perempuan menangis terseduh. Iya, dia telah pulang. Dia pulang. Dia pulang. Pulang dengan luka yang menganga di dadanya. Maka padamkan televisi, keran air, detak-detak jam dinding supaya ada sunyi untuk. Tengah malam nanti akan kau dengar seorang perempuan menangis dalam kamar. In the middle of the night, you will hear a sound of a crying from a girl in a room. Tengah malam nanti kamu akan mendengar dia menangis dalam kamar. Saat itu pasar, pertokoan, kantor, jalan raya jadi sepi, pedagang, orang-orang pulang. Lalu suara pendeta, diberkatilah tubuh, teduh dan cemar, sebab pintu telah terbuka baginya ke pelabuhan, ke bintang-bintang. Tengah malam nanti kau akan dengar seorang perempuan menangis terseduh dalam kamar. Dia telah pulang. He's come back home with a big hole in his chest. Dia telah pulang dengan luka yang menganga di dadanya. I write this in Kupang, 4 of May 2016. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And that was about a migrant worker, did you say? So during my day job, one of my main focuses is justice for refugees and migrants, including over 1 million undocumented and temporary migrants here in Australia, a lot of them from Southeast Asia, a lot of them from Indonesia, a lot of them from the LGBTI community. So over 1 million people in this country prop up our farming, hospitality and education system. And they don't have avenues to reconnect with their families or permanency in this country. And we often think of undocumented migrants or migrants stuck in kind of like a visa hellhole as something that the North America has, but actually we've introduced it in the last 15 to 20 years. And I think that's an integral issue to identify, especially as we continue to incarcerate not only people seeking safety, but also unprecedented levels of First Nations people in this country. So there's a cycle of violence and harm that never seems to come to justice. So I think it's a very important issue. So let's go to our next artist. Laniyuk was born of a French mother and a Larakia, Kungarakan and Kurinji father. Her poetry and short memoir often reflects the intersectionality of her cross-cultural and queer identity. A contributor to the book Colouring the Rainbow, Black, Queer and Trans Perspectives, and a winner of the Indigenous residency for Canberra's noted Writers' Festival in 2017. Laniyuk has received Overland's Writers' Residency for 2018, as well as being shortlisted for Overland's 2018 Mikado Brophy Poetry Prize. She will be performing a piece piece produced by Gabi Briggs, who's a Kuri woman from the sovereign Anawan and Gumbaynggirr peoples and has been raised on country in Armidale, New South Wales. She relocated to the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri peoples, where she is currently completing her Bachelor of Fine Arts at RMIT. Gabi works primarily with photography as well as video and performance. Gabi is a co-founder of Sovereign Apocalypse and is a member of the Titters Take Back collective. Introducing Laniyuk.
Shout out to all mob present today. Nika, lovely to see you. Thanks for coming. The body of an Indigenous woman is one of the most policed bodies in the world. We have worn the bruises and broken bones from the ugliest methods of war, carried babies forced into our wombs, and we lost our voices from screaming when you stole them from us. We wore fake smiles on our faces to survive forced assimilation. When our babies grew and you walked into the room, you forced their heads down into submission, trained them to be slaves, and dressed them in aprons. Once decorated in ceremonial scarification and ink, draped in the ocean's jewels and our animal skins, she glistened in poised tribalism when the colonizers' boats arrived. 200 years later, and you've bastardized our culture, reselling it back to us as bohemian, white, summertime tribal with a broad-brimmed hat. You can wear our patterns and our art with the jeweled rings to match, without having to wear the rolled shoulders of child abduction and land theft. The body of an Indigenous woman is carved from the mountains. Weathered from the rains, she sustains your blows and still walks with eyes to the sky. The body of an Indigenous woman has been beaten, mistreated, sexualized and tokenized, forcefully sterilized to minimize our population. Which leads me to believe that you are fearful of this body. Built in all its glory, she is certainly something to be feared, to be revered. As heartfelt as her existence is, she sings the truth you do not want to hear. The presence of her skin brings echoes of our Creator. Sliding through the sands of time, our limbs glide in celebration of the rainbow serpent. Giant in power, we inherited its spirit, and when you see us, the cells of your bodies recognize the energy of this land. Of course, you are scared of us. And so it became necessary and crucial to legitimize your theft and maintain your control, to burden this body, patrol this body, lock up, scrutinize, silence, demonize this body. But we are not as malleable as you lead yourself to believe. Underneath this skin resides the full extent of our wisdom, our love, our strength. You will try to silence us, erase us, move us, displace us, but we will grow. From seed to tree, from earth to sky, we rise. We resist. We birth. We exist. We are born. And then we die. And always we rise.
you so much. We've got one final pair of artists to present to you tonight. One thing that I always think about in terms of art and creation and activism is how important relationships are. You know, those connections that you make, sometimes they're like instant, others are like forged out there through great difficulty when you're in very vulnerable situations, or you come across really, really strenuous situations, and you kind of really exemplify the best and worst of yourself, and somehow you get through it, and your bond is even tighter. And I think that's really important in terms of creating art. Sometimes it's very difficult and complicated and messy. And so continue this symbiotic relationship. We've got our final artist. Haneen Mahmood Martin is a visual artist, writer, and curator working behind the scenes in the music industry in Darwin. Her work emphasizes the importance of being a visible and vocal woman of color in the creative industry and creating work that is mostly centered around her experience as a migrant, Arab, Malay, Muslim woman in Australia post 9/11. Recurring themes in her work include exoticism, everyday racism, diaspora, and displacement, as well as the fight to embrace one's culture while trying to be accepted in contemporary Australia. These themes manifest through the mediums of printmaking, embroidery, illustration, poetry, and personal essay. Haneen will be presenting a piece alongside Olivia Tian Chai Ko's work. Olivia is a Chinese-English artist based in Melbourne. She co-organizes Recess, an online platform for moving image works with Nina Gilbert and Kate McKinney. And I'd like to present to you Haneen.
For what are yous are waning? We've switched things up. You ask me, what are you reading? To show off your brain, engage in discussion, to prove something I don't know. Because we don't read the same books, and you have never had to prove that you can read. Because you deserve to know what makes me up, as if my ambiguity is an insult. You do not deserve to drown me just because you cannot make sense of me. My skin is murky as my genealogy, so far mixed that nothing is clear anymore. So you drown me in your questions. So you switch things up. You focus on the smart ways to make me look foreign. Pull attention to my name, which despite my best efforts is a siren call. Let me tell you about my name, the name that I've chopped, swapped, switched, and adopted to suit your rules, and you refuse to get it right. You insist that I drown in your questions. Get my name right, get my name right, get my name right. How spiteful can you be? I am drowning in your persistent laziness. It's just not that hard. Let me tell you about my name, the one chopped off and left behind to make me more palatable for you. My grandmother went head to head with a bad man, snuck away from a birthing suite to make additions to my name, which honor my culture, my family, that I can no longer use for your ease. You insist my name is confusing, difficult, yet it is spelt the way it sounds because my people are direct, we are honest, and we are clear about what we do not know. I'm drowning in your laziness. Let me tell you about my name. I'm not named after a damn soul. My parents chose a name they liked, and it sounds foreign to you because it was not chosen for you. Let me tell you about my name. The name we added because I lost the others. The name of my grandfather that my brother, mother, and I adopted. The name we persist with because despite your attempts, we cannot drown. We will remember who we are. This name I tried to hide for years because it's yet another hint. Another clue for your so-called educated, so-called well-traveled mind, your curious mind. So curious you deserve the answer to every question you've ever asked. Let me tell you about my name. Last one I am glad to be rid of, attached to a bad man who refuses to release me. Yet I wish I had it because it would trip up your tongue the way it deserved. So blatantly Arabic and foreign. I wish that I could hand it to you and watch you trip the way you are watching me drown. Let me tell you about my name, the one I adopted to ease the pressure. It reflects a good man I share the name with. This one's so simple it catches you off guard. You can't drown me here.
Thank you so much to our wonderful artists tonight. I think having two dualities and two sets of theories and ideas coalescing and clashing is so very important. Before I close the night, I'd like to thank you all for spending Wednesday night here with us. And coming out in this cold, very dreary Melbourne night. Thank you so much for coming. I'd like to thank Emerging Writers Festival for hosting this night and for bringing such beautiful artists together. And I'd like to remind you that the bar will be open a little later. So if you'd like to get to know each other a little bit more, get a little bit tipsy on this Wednesday night, even though it's a school night, I will allow it. And before we leave, I've never presented a work in progress, but perhaps a work in progress is very reflective of us resisting and the activism that we embody, especially if we're deeply politicized people and our bodies are deeply politicized, whether racialized due to disability, through gender, class. So I thought I'd present a piece of my own. I don't want to quietly return to this groove in my mattress, wrap myself in my sheets, fall asleep on my own possibility. I will not eat the words out of their mouth, chew them for the second time, and swallow the pulp. I won't bathe in milk, waiting for it to sour, wrinkling my skin. I cannot build walls out of bones, make a home out of pain. Feel the breeze through just a small open window left ajar. No, because right now is for the days we cannot rehearse, when we need to rub our eyes awake, never drown again. Thank you so much for coming.